You're listening to the Wrestling Philosophy Show, where we focus on in-depth interviews with the wrestling community on coaching, perspectives, beliefs, and techniques. For the latest shows, go to wrestlingphilosophy.com or follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube by searching Wrestling Philosophy Show. All right, here we are with Nate Shearer. Nate, where are you at today?
Jared, Lexington, Virginia, up at our new athletic center. Just opened up a couple weeks ago, so in a new office and a brand new wrestling room also right behind me in the window there.
Oh wow! So your office is right next to your wrestling room, huh?
Yeah, no, I've got a window. Yeah, right into it. The entranceway, maybe 15, 20 feet away. So it's a really nice setup.
So how new is that facility?
It was a 2-year project. It just opened up August 24th.
Oh wow!
Not fully open, obviously, with COVID right now, but students and PE courses and all that kind of stuff, strength and conditioning, lifting, that the whole new facility was torn down, built from the ground up.
Wow. So you have not even broken in yet. And, you're going into your 10th season there?
Starting year 10. Yeah.
Year 10. So talk about a little bit about that. If, you get a new facility, I guess the progression of the 10 years there and where you're at now.
No, it's been it's went the whole spectrum. We had a lot of work to do at the beginning, and we team result wise not really competitive in some dual meets, but we had some individuals having some success, and then it just slowly started creeping up. One guy, then two guys, and this past year we won the conference tournament for the first time in the school history, so 41-year history. We've been slowly working our way up. Yeah, we've been 5th and 4th and 3rd and 2nd. Then first in the last 5-6 years. So it went kind of in chronological order.
Nice. I guess we failed to mention right off the rip, but you're at Washington and Lee, really, really awesome school. How would you describe it without mentioning Lexington or Shenandoah Valley? How would you describe the school? Because that's a whole other subject, right? That's a whole other subject.
Yeah, so we're in a part of the country. I mean, it's beautiful. Right at your fingertips. We've got hiking, mountain biking trails. We got the river that we float, swim, and carry on in all the time. I mean, it's very rural. But I mean, there's still probably 78,000 people in the town. We're also in the same town as Virginia Military Institute, so it adds a different dynamic that two colleges are in the same small town. So there is a strong local economy. So there are things to do, shops and restaurants and stuff like that. It's kind of a throwback town.
Okay.
It's really nice.
Yeah, no, I've heard it's awesome. I've drove through, but never been there. I've heard it's awesome. So going back, at what point did you know you wanted to be a wrestling coach?
I would probably say when maybe sometime in high school when I had some up and down experiences. I guess maybe looking back on it, how I felt about how my high school wrestling was going. And then when I crossed paths with I got Tim Dernlan, I mean, somebody we both know really well.
Mm-hmm.
And
awesome guy.
It kind of, I don't know how this is going to come out, but the effect he had on me was, hey, this is what it's supposed to look like.
Right. That's a good point.
and I mean, if you cross paths with Tim Dernlan, I mean, that guy, there's never any you can't say a negative word. So I think that's probably when I was like, I'd like that guy to be my coach. That's what I was thinking. I wish he would come coach Clyde.
Yeah.
So that was probably he had a big impact on my not just wrestling life. Like, he was really influential on someone you can kind of lean on, and you didn't even have to ask him questions. Just watch him act. Just watch him.
His actions alone. He didn't need to speak, right? His actions alone. So let's talk about that a little bit. You had the pleasure of having him, right? Literally in your backyard for summer.
Yeah, I mean, how that camp got going was, I mean, obviously my dad was not all that. He would put us in position, but he back then there's no internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you call for camps? What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
So he looked up in the Ohio book who was winning the most, and he saw the Dernlan name family. And
right. He's one of the most resourceful guys I know. Your dad, right?
He doesn't make things too complicated. He said, all right, we're going to figure this out. I want my kids to be able to be good. So that's how we ended up at Clyde, because they had a really good team in the area, a really good team. He's like, well, they need more than that because they're not very good at all. They need to, they need more. And yeah, so he saw their name. He called their dad. He called their dad and just said, hey, your kids win a lot. Would any of your boys willing to come up here and to Clyde and do a camp? Because he has the four brothers.
Was that first camp over at Aona's barn? Was that
in the Aona's barn? Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, Drew, you, me, Tanner. There's Corey. It was like a 2-section wrestling mat, like those foam.
Right. It wasn't much. Right.
But and the crazy part is that's when Tim was training for the Olympics.
Yes. Right. I totally forgot about that.
And I felt so bad because, or maybe world team. I think because the world team, the one year was in Indianapolis that Tanner and I drove over and watched them. And I remember thinking to myself, man, this guy's trying to make a world team. I feel bad because he needs more than me right now. Like he needs more than this group.
I remember him whooping on us. I remember that.
So many. I remember when Drew hit a front headlock on him the wrong way and kind of tweaked Tim's neck. Oh, and right. I thought he was going to break Drew in half. We should ask Drew.
Yeah, I have to get him out here. I never heard that story.
Oh yeah, but then it kind of this is a side conversation. But remember, he brought Jeff Ratliff up.
He brings some awesome guys up.
Yeah, so that's Jeff Ratliff came up, and the reason my brother and I were just Tanner and I were just talking about this is that on Friday they just re-released the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, and that's what Jeff Ratliff. He
brought
that game to my house, yeah, and I remember that was the first video game I got hooked on because
that was addicting.
Yeah, no, but yeah, that was the first kind of what was it? Victory wrestling camps. He started.
Yep.
And then they kind of formed. My dad was like, "Hey, can you come back next year?" And at the time, we had my dad had built a barn in the back of our property. It wasn't fancy. I mean, we literally went to an auction and bought pallet racking, and all spring. I was using the power sander and I sanded them down and primered and painted pallet racking, and then we just cut up a bunch of sheets of OSB board and bought some pads, and those were the bunk beds for the camp.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Good times. So from there, learn from Tim, and then obviously go on to Ohio Northern. Talk a little bit about what you learned from at Ohio Northern in coaching.
Oh no, it's awesome. And even more smart, like I wasn't even, how I even got to Northern was, I didn't really think I was even going to go to college.
Okay. What were you thinking you were going to do? What was going through your mind?
I mean, I'd say like the default answer for the hometown area guy, right? Like, or a girl, you go to Bowling Green. So I was just going to go there, and I didn't really have a plan. And then that's when Matt, Tim's brother, sometime in that spring just became the assistant coach at Ohio Northern. Okay. And I had went to Jeff Jordan's camp one time, and Matt was a counselor down there.
Yeah, because they were close with Jordan's coming up.
Yeah. Right. And so he said, hey, I don't know what your plans are, but my brother's going to be coaching at Ohio Northern. And I had already talked to Coach Beaschler quite a bit, but just still, I just didn't know. I was nervous that my high school experience was going to translate to college, and I didn't want any part of that. That's not what I wanted. And it was very comforting and not that I didn't believe Coach Beaschler, and I imagine there's got to be a lot of people maybe in this situation, but I just wanted a more pleasurable wrestling experience. Winning or losing really honestly didn't matter to me anymore. And then once Matt, it was very comforting. Once Matt said he was going there, it was pretty seamless, and I mean, it turned out to be almost life-changing, but I mean, really trajected me in a much different path than who knows what I've done without that.
Right. So it was literally life-changing.
Yeah.
So I guess talk a little bit about that experience. I didn't know that's how you ended up there. I knew he was there, but I guess should have connected the dots there. But I guess tell us about your experience there with Coach Beaschler and what you learned. I guess what you took away from that experience.
It couldn't have been the word fit is used all the time. Could not have had the best. I mean, it was the best fit, and especially again when I was coming into it. Just like just some of the just looking out for you, just always has your best interest in mind, and not very negative, just truthful and honest, but not just always coaching you up. Making you feel good about yourself.
On and off the mat, right?
And so important. So yeah, I mean, I was there with Matt, who I knew not only his parents and his brother, but I knew him away from wrestling. I knew him when I was at college, and Coach Beaschler, I mean, he's the man. I mean, this guy, I don't think he ever probably gets all the credit that he deserves, but he's been so transformative in the sport of wrestling. I mean, he created the OPC weight system. He's been the rules editor. He's been the president of the Coach Association. He's in the Hall of Fame. Been coaching since the early '80s, and he's still got the juice,
Yeah, no, yeah, huge ambassador of the sport. Lucky to have him here, in the sport and here in Ohio. So definitely. So you mentioned the Coach Association, right? And are you still involved with that, or what's your role there? If you are?
So I'm still on the board for the Coach Association. I rotated off the NCAA committee 2 years ago, so I finished up a 4-year appointment. My last year I was the NCAA, the Division III chair of the NCAA committee, but still on the Coach Association executive board. Yeah.
Oh wow, cool.
So that's been, and again, I credit Beaschler. He was always involved in those organizations. Any convention, any seminar, all those things. He was always making sure you're involved, paying your way. So I coached there for 4 years after I graduated, when my wife Jana was in law school, and so I feel like my professional development was expedited because someone like Coach Beaschler was just put me in front of all the people. I shouldn't say put me in front of, giving me access to just be around the people to see them.
That's what mentors do, right? That's awesome. Do you have any other, besides Coach Beaschler, any other, mentors or guys you rely on, from the coaching aspect or life,
Yeah, no, I mean, we talked a little bit about this before we jumped on the air here. I mean, I feel fortunate that just the community of wrestling that I grew up in, back in Clyde, in the Sandusky area, we had, with just a lot of great wrestlers and families that were really into wrestling. And, there's all, the Kevin West and Bob Butler were my youth coaches. Maybe name a better duo. I dare you.
Right. No, we didn't realize what we're being brought up with. That's for darn sure. Right.
No, I mean, Kevin West, geez, I mean, he's the backbone of that, he was, the backbone of that Clyde Betty wrestling program that, and you just look at everybody who was going through there, and then all the parents, and then next door you had, Matt DiPolo, who his dad was the Bellevue coach.
Right.
Anthony Coleman, but then we drive to Sandusky, which is a short distance, and the Opfer family, or I'm just gonna forget everybody, but
Perkins and Sandusky people, right?
Sandusky. Right. And so right away, your peer group is influential. So I think that was really important. Then I got into junior high and high school. I had a lot of those same coaches. Then you start entering the mix of, Tim and Matt. And then right. And then you go to Jordan's camp, and so those were kind of the, and then you go to open mats, right? Then you go Matt and Coach Jack Effner, who actually did a clinic for him last summer down. He's not too far from here.
Oh, really?
At Virginia Beach at Cape Henry.
Wow, that's crazy. 'Cause I know Drew. Drew knew him very well too. That's awesome.
So great, because at the time, right, the Elyria, the barn, and the Burnett thing really wasn't up and running.
Right. It was just before that. Right.
Yeah, just before that. So we would our place, or go to Sandusky and those coaches, or go up to the open mats at Cleveland State when Coach Effner was there. I mean, these are all just great people. And so, yeah, you look back, you're like, wow, I mean, it's just
crazy.
Yeah.
Like how we just fell in that area, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's nice. So then I get to college and I have Matt and Coach Beaschler at, kind of as your personal coaches. And yeah, I mean, spoiled is probably a good word.
Yeah. Spoiled and blessed. So going back to the Coach Association, when you're on that, when you have that position, how do you do your homework or due diligence so you're, informed and making the right decisions? I guess what's the thought process behind that? Do you look at other sports that are in similar situations as wrestling? Do you look at, with the emergence of girls wrestling, do you look at sports such as, track and field or sports that are similar? Or what's from that position, how do you approach that?
Yeah, the NWCA, they do a good job. They there's a the Olympic sports have a lot of these associations, and there's a lot of some of it's public, and there's a lot of kind of behind the scenes, partnering up and combining resources sometimes. And it may be, our sport may be different than yours, than field hockey, but there's a lot of the issues that are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Every sport, trying to increase, the accessibility to, in wrestling, where it's women's wrestling, or, fighting and participation numbers and stuff like that. So working closely also with the National Federation of High Schools, weight classes, and it's really good, again, a good professional experience, and also to open your eyes on some of the things that, it's just natural, right? You maybe you question things or you don't understand, but then you kind of get to see how it's unfolding, and it, at the end of the day, you may not agree or you could disagree or agree, but it can make a lot of sense of like how the process works, and then you can maybe focus on the process and so instead of just complaining about it.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's I don't want to say it's a lot of work. Honestly, for me, it's less work for me than some of the people at the very top of the organization. Like Mike Moyer, Pat Tossi. These guys they're full time, and that's all they do all day. So their schedules are really hectic. We have monthly meeting calls, and we meet in person a couple times a year.
I can't imagine some of those conversations. I know, rule changes, there's some every year, and I know they're long and thought out and thought through. You personally, what would you change if there's one rule to change at the college level, what would you change?
Yeah. This was not my idea. I think I maybe heard this maybe a couple of years ago at a convention. Like, I do like folk style. I like the control aspect. I do like a lot of freestyle too, and Greco also.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like that, the takedown to escape ratio. I think it's a 2-to-1, and I always thought that you take a guy down and you go and action goes out of bounds, and if I get to choose neutral, you maybe not get your escape point. I'd be curious to see how that would work out.
That wouldn't be hard to implement either, right? I mean, all right, go back.
And I guess the thought is like, sometimes there's a lot of stalemates, and sometimes the guy on the bottom maybe gets a fresh start, a restart from the referee's position, and I don't feel like he earns it a lot of times.
Right, changes the whole match.
Yeah, my guy's on top and got a leg in, the guy's on his belly, and the ref has a stalemate, and that's a great advantage to that person. So I would like it. Maybe it would motivate the person on bottom a little bit to make sure they stay active, which would lead to them maybe opening up, maybe to lead to more
action, right? To more action from the top, yeah.
Yeah, so if it would be incentive. And also if the guy on bottom, Granby, rolls out of bounds on purpose sometimes to get a fresh start,
mm-hmm.
Then I can choose neutral and you wouldn't get it. I'm not, I don't know if that fixes anything, but be curious to see it.
Right. Yeah, that's not a bad one. I know it's been discussed, and it makes sense. I mean, it's that you're doing all that work for a takedown for 1 point, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think they keep, I want to see them tweaking the, I think if they go to bounds every time, it should be a stall call, if not a point. I don't think they'll go to a point, but sometimes like when it's that difference between action and stalling, I think it's still confusing sometimes what I feel like action is, or, maybe just be consistent. Like what about just every time they go out, just
right.
All stalling on the guy that went out of bounds. I don't know. Like
right. No, it definitely, there's a lot of gray area there. And I think it's not only hard for coaches sometimes, right? Cause you could have, two refs interpret the rule different ways, but, it makes it tougher, for officials. Even we have new officials getting into the sport, and now, they interpret it one way, I think the more gray area in some of these rules, it's not helping the sport at all. Then you go into the fan aspect of it. It's like, well, why is this called this way and not this way? So. But
and I know there's a big call for the riding time point. I'm indifferent. If they got rid of it, I don't think I'd be bothered.
Right, but what your rule, would kind of, okay, do I ride them, for that point, or do I kick them and take them, kick them out and take them down? It's part of the strategy of the match. And that 1 point, I agree, that 1 point differential, is not much, So
no, I mean, because I know I'm not a math statistician, but right, there's equations out there where you can never take a guy down, be taken down so many times and lose the match, right?
Right.
Right. And what you mentioned before, like the fan aspect, you hate that. I mean, well, I know it enters in, when ESPN gives their advice to the NCAA, that 100% influences some rules, and
mm-hmm.
that ESPN wants to see action when they have it on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And so
we all do, right?
Yeah, right. So 100%, it has influenced some of the rule changes that have come about in the last couple of years. The 5 count on the stalling, mm-hmm. and the push out. I think it has influenced. So you have to think of the fan. You have to consider the fan and following the sport. And and making things just make a little bit more sense. I mean, to grow the sport, we have to appeal to a different demographic. I mean, I think that's
Right.
well known.
Right. So let's switch gears a little bit. What's the biggest difference you see between Ohio and Virginia wrestling?
Ohio and Virginia. I think in Virginia we have we have pockets of really awesome wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You have the DC Coach Hazard up there, Robertson High School,
Mm-hmm.
and the Fairfield program.
Coach Hazard, his NCAA Twitter.
Yeah, right.
Jason Bryant, those are the best. Those are one of the best I've seen. But go on.
No, Bryant's great. Yeah, and then we have in Richmond, you have great wrestling there. You have St. Chris Wrestling Club outside of Richmond, Predator Wrestling Club, not too far from Richmond, Blacksburg's Christiansburg area. Obviously, a lot of good wrestling. The Beach has great wrestling. Oscar Smith and Cox. So there's just, but in between it can get kind of sparse. And I think in Ohio, it's just seems like good wrestling all over the place. But in Virginia, it seems just there's just Grundy. I mean, Grundy is a very southwest coal mining country down in southwest Virginia. But in between, you got a lot of areas. It could be great. It's just not the thing to do.
Right.
So
what other sports are you competing with in Virginia? Is it different than Ohio or
Virginia? It's big, especially the DC Richmond, like football and lacrosse, basketball. Wrestling I wouldn't say is a top sport in Virginia. It's also fragmented a little bit too. They have 6 divisions, and the divisions are all over the place of the state. It's not a good. I don't think it's a good setup for the fan and the families to grow the sport because, for example, a couple years ago at their state tournament, they had, one day of the state tournament was on Friday at this high school, and on Saturday it was at a different high school on Saturday.
Wow. What was the reason behind that? Just the venue availability here?
No, this is how they do it.
So they'll move the whole day one of a tournament's in venue A and day 2 is in venue B.
Yeah, and it's a high school, right?
Right, that should be easy.
The pageantry is so much different a state like Ohio, like the table workers, the just the aesthetics, how things look, the optics, and the pageantry is just a good word. In Virginia, there's a couple of in Salem, Virginia, an hour south of me. I think they have 3 of the divisions, and they have 2 of them in another high school. So it's just very fragmented.
Yeah. Does it make it tough to coach with it being that way? Or excuse me, recruiting as a coach? Yeah,
I mean, really, we don't go to the state tournament because we go to the sometimes the local one. A lot of days we're in season 2, but it's got to be it'd be nice to go to one central location. And I know all the Virginia coaches, all the ones that I talk to would love this. You just go to one central location to watch all the wrestlers in the state because, as we all know, good wrestling is good wrestling, and wrestling fans are gonna watch wrestling all day. So even if it's not their division, they're gonna stay around and watch all these other matches.
For sure.
I've been to Michigan, I've been to New Jersey, Ohio. Like fans just don't leave when their school's kid is done.
They're there to see wrestling. And they know the names, and it's good for the sport, right?
Right. The kid that your kid goes to a club with, he might be in a different division.
Right. When you grow up, I mean, just like you guys being at Clyde, we stuck around and watched you guys. I mean, right? We're cheering for your conference teams or whatever it may be, right? I mean, I remember it vividly, cheering for other school, Clyde fans standing up when I wrestled.
You're cheering. You did cheer a little bit for Clyde, huh?
I cheered for you and Dougie and Tanner or whoever. But
no, it's just fragmented, and it makes it hard to to me, it makes it hard to kind of follow and get some momentum, and then get the ball really rolling, and then you get the arena going, and then you get people filled it up, and then you can really start to do some special things with all those pageantry, stuff like that. But the people, the wrestling people in Virginia are awesome. I mean, it's not like. No, I mean, there's awesome wrestling people in Virginia. Yeah, really good. Bill Swing, Brian Hazard, the Predator Club, Ross Jatomer at St. Chris. Like, just so many good people.
I remember wrestling at Virginia Duels, and I thought it was cool. They had the high school down at one end and the college at the other, and the fans coming in there and hearing them cheer and the duels. I thought you could definitely tell it was a good community, programs, a pretty cool atmosphere. So, no, that's
Yeah,
cool.
that's a huge event every year. I mean, some of the top college guys in the country, right, show up to that.
Right. So so what's going on with Washington Lee? Obviously, you said new facilities. What's coming next, or what I'm sure you're always working on projects, right? Whether it's at home, I'm sure. And so what's next?
What's new? My wife wishes I would stop it.
I'm sure.
Yeah, no, she I can't sit still. I mean, quarantine hit and I put a home sauna in the basement.
Awesome.
I mean, it's just like I went out to the lumber yard and bought a bunch of red cedar and started throwing it together. And
did Bill help you, give you insight on that, right?
Yeah, no, he wasn't able to make it down because he's converting in the barn. He put an addition on the barn. I don't know if you've been out there, but
I haven't recently.
Corey has. My dad's out of his mind sometimes. He put a really big addition, 2-story lofted addition onto the barn. Sold the house on the front of the property.
I knew that.
He's moving in. He's I don't want to say too much, get him in trouble with tax man, but he's tired of it.
he's living in the barn. It was a barn dominium.
Barn, yeah. So he was right in the middle of doing some of that. So he was actually just in town a couple of weeks ago. So it was good. But yeah, I mean, put a volleyball court in for my daughter last year, volleyball court.
Nice.
And they thought I was putting a pool in when me and my dad were messing around. But yeah, something is always going on at the house. I got the little home gym. At school here, we've got, like I said, we just finished up a 2-year project, a huge athletic center, around 5,000 square feet for like wrestling space.
Oh, wow.
And then, like I said, our offices are right here. Like the locker room is nice as a locker room, and separate shower. Then they have a lounge area with TVs and couches and stuff like that.
So that's awesome. That has to help with recruiting when you can get people back on campus.
Now
I'm sure. Right?
I mean,
open the doors.
Right? No, I mentioned this to somebody the other day. It's like we were coming off the best year we've ever had. 3 All-Americans, conference championship, 2nd at the NCAA regional. Multiple years in a row, team national ranking, top 20 ranking, and nice brand new facility. And it's like, we just want to. So many people want to visit and check it out, and we want to go see people, but we're like everyone else right now. This is this big holding pattern. So it's kind of like what's going on at WNL. We're just we're just trying to do as much as we're allowed to do, and but things are always moving here. Facilities or grounds, a school. It's
good. You get really good support, right? From talking to you in the past. This, Washington League gives great support. What are some examples of that? How being a small school, it doesn't mean you don't get the support. What kind of support do you get?
Yeah, to me, one of the biggest ones for me is like I don't do any fundraising.
Wow.
I mean, I'm the head coach. I'm at full time. Alex Radsky, he's from Columbus, Ohio. He's also full time. We don't have any other. We do have other secondary things that we help with in the department, right? But it's not. Those are just things those are just being helpful. Like we don't have split technically duties.
Wow. That's unheard of probably for a small school, right?
Yeah. From a budget perspective, we're able to do quite a bit with 30 guys. And we're not, we're fortunate we don't have to do, fundraisers and things like that to support that. Now we do have, our alumni is very generous, and they do donate quite a bit. And it's nice because we can use that to just enhance all those little things, little gestures that kind of make a team nice. But it feels good because like that is a stereotype sometimes. That Division III can be stereotyped once in a while. Like it's club or it's not funded.
Mm-hmm.
But you start diving into it a little bit, and a school like Washington and Lee, I mean the endowment is near $1.5 billion.
Oh wow!
Of a school with only 1,800 kids, and so. What that allows is, we're very fortunate. I use that word a lot. Very fortunate for all the resources.
Well, I think you're pretty fortunate the type of student athlete you get too. I know you've talked in the past. The type of quality of student athletes you get. It's they're looking beyond wrestling, right? And they're not just there to wrestle. I mean, obviously wrestling's part of it, but they're looking beyond it, I guess.
Jared, I'm looking at these resumes and these transcripts, and it's like, where do you even find time to, go place at the high school national tournament and train like that?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're traveling the world and country, doing even when they're on campus here. I mean, doing internships and research and giving presentations, and there's sometimes in the fall, our juniors in our C school, we have a very prestigious business school, and
that's what I was going to ask next. What what's the schools at Washington Lee? What are the main areas of study?
Our business school. So a lot of investment banking is big, or finance consulting. A lot draws a lot. Our health professions major. You don't major in pre-med. It's just here it's
Right.
called health professions. Several guys. I mean, our placement in the top 20 med schools. I think it's somewhere like 95%.
Wow.
Journalism. We're one of the earliest, I think, accredited journalism schools in the country. And computer science is growing. All the data and computer science is growing, but I mean, at our core, we're liberal arts. We have a law school.
Oh wow.
So I think we're a little bit different though too, because sometimes liberal arts, we offer a lot more majors and minors and programming than the typical liberal arts. I mean, we have a law school and our own business school. So, but at our foundation, liberal arts, we're the well-rounded student taking courses in all multiple disciplines.
Oh, that's cool. That's pretty cool. And like you said, the area alone, right? You could sell itself when recruiting. When you're not coaching, or what do you do in the area? What's the thing to do if you're there? Let's say you're there on a recruiting trip or whatever, one weekend down that. What are some places to do? Things to do? Places to stop?
It's for us. It's like pick your adventure. I mean, if you wanna float the river a mile away, you got the Maury. You can kayak or tube it, float it. For a little bit more adventure, we go out to Panther Falls, and we're jumping off a waterfall, maybe 15 feet into a big pool. That's about 10 or 15 miles away. Appalachian Trail cuts right on the edge of our town, so there's that. But I would say, me personally, me and the boys and the dog, we're at the river with the kayak and mess around down there. So that's probably our number one go-to. Some donuts, coffee, and then we're heading down to the river.
There you go. Sounds like a perfect day.
Yeah.
Well, Nate, thanks for your time. I want to be respectful of your time, and I appreciate it. But I'm sure we'll be talking here soon. But good luck this season, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Yeah, we'll see you. Thanks.